nje tinegwatansa tunemtunguka tuyabukura kandi.
As Uganda prepares to commemorate the International Youth Day celebrations in Kabale district, with President Yoweri Museveni being the main celebrant, the Naguru Teenage Information and Health Center brought together Kigezi youth leaders at Cephas Inn for a pre-International Youth Day dialogue on the 16th of August. The purpose of the dialogue was to define the role of youth leaders in the achievement of sustainable development goals and to generate actionable recommendations towards recovering from COVID-19 and advancing the SDGs. While speaking at the dialogue, the Assistant Resident District Commissioner, Ronald Bakachi, implored the youth leaders to help the government in the fight against corruption, citing a recent case where youth leaders were involved in corruption.
I call upon you, please, let us help the government to fight corruption. Just 2 weeks back, I was on leave, and people were opening up PDM accounts. Before I received the petition from the beneficiaries who are being charged a lot of money to have accounts, yet it is very clear they should have free accounts. It is youth leaders from one sub-county here, I will not mention, but my honorable is there, I shared with him. And the sub-county leadership were calling, no, RDC. Now these people, we convinced them to pay the money. And they have paid voluntarily. Why are you now coming in saying they should refund the money? I told the manager of the bank that I've given you only 2 hours to refund all the money you have collected. And the money was refunded back. But it's the youth leaders and the leaders within the sub-county who are pleading with me that I should not make these people to refund the what, because they have promised them something. That something is very literal. It's only going to sustain you for only a few minutes.
Resident District Commissioner cautioned the youth on intrigue and fights over cash, citing a case in 2012 where he says they were responsible for the president not attending a similar function.
I have a record that Kabale had an International Youth Day in 2012. Though because of the disorganization of the youth, the president did not come. They started fighting themselves over what? Over money, and the intelligence wrote, I think, a different report. This time around, I request you. We have started hearing some small thing. Because we want the president to be here as security, we shall not take it for granted. We just call upon you. Let us work together as what?
Various youth leaders voiced concerns about the rape of young girls and boys, being forced to pay kickbacks to officials for youth to be able to receive loans, appeals to turn youth loans into grants instead, lack of access to clean water, among many others.
What structures can we lay for those people who are raping children, young ladies? Because in our district, it is the common case that we have.
They talked about the issue of rape, and some of us think that when it comes to rape, the only thing one should have done is maybe forced you to do something. But what they should know is, the problem is, first of all, people fear going to court. And again, the leaders themselves are not separated. When someone rapes you, you go and tell the youth leader or someone else. You find that the whole village knows about what happened to you. That is the first thing. Then the other thing is, people are not confident. When such a thing happens, they are not confident enough to go to hospitals and maybe get PEP or go for the testing of the other infections. So I think as the youth leaders, it is our role to maybe sensitize them and inform them that just because something bad has happened doesn't mean that you should lose your self-esteem, lose your confidence, and maybe they should also begin trusting the government and begin maybe reporting those issues.
Here in districts that we have the youth livelihood programs, the likes of Emioga, they say that they always target the youth. I always hear. But we have those crooks at the... You see these people up there, they always bring us, they elect us, and they say that they trust us, and they make us leaders. But then when they come to our programs of the youth, they still take that stuff to those crooks, the people I call crooks. Those are the stakeholders. So, like, you have brought the Youth Livelihood Program, you're saying that we come and apply and you give us money, we have applied, you have brought the money, you give us the stakeholders, those crooks. Those are the very people who will still chop our money, eat it. At the end of the day, they say that they have given us 10 millions, but in reality we have only 3 million. You told me to bring the budget, I brought it, I broke it down up to 1 shilling, which shows that my budget sums to 10 millions. You have given me 3 millions. How do you expect me to use those 3 millions to make that project of 10 million? I have given you the budget, then I get your money and repay back. So me as the vice chairperson of the youth, I always tell my people, whenever you're given money, they say that they have given you 5 million, in reality they give you 2 million. Don't pay back that money. Seriously. Because if you give me 10 million, you expect me to put like 1%, I will pay 11 million. So if in reality you give me 2 million, and you say that you gave me 10 million, how do you expect me to give you 11 million, or yet you gave me only 3? So I will always tell them, chop that money until they will trust us, as they say that they elected us to give us all our projects. We run them by ourselves, and we will be paying back their money. Thank you very much.
Government is giving grants to special interest groups like PWDs. It has given women. My question is, why not even to the youth? Because we are also part of the special interest groups. Why do you put pressure on the youth to recover the money? Why don't you also call it grants, so that it saturates in the groups and stays within?
About clean water and sanitation. Majorly in Rwanda district, most of the areas are very hilly and we don't have clean water. Whereby you find people from hilly areas or on top of mountains are using unclean water. They have dug pits and holes to collect water from rain. And whenever you try to talk about clean water, they will tell you we don't have water to use. What do you want us to use, yet we have not gotten clean water you're talking about? So, like that problem, though they talk about clean water, for us in Rwanda, we have not seen that clean water. And about sanitation, you cannot talk about sanitation when you don't have clean water. When you try to talk to girls about cleanliness, how they should do the cleanliness of their bodies, whatever, then they will say, what should we use? So, as they used to have tried, but that is a challenge in Rwanda. And my appeal now is that at least the government should try and connect water bodies or water supply to those hilly areas.
On her part, Dr. Nawire Justin from the Ministry of Health outlined the challenges that young people faced during the COVID-19 pandemic, leading to a discussion on how the youth should be helped to recover from these challenges. Various youth leaders shared their ideas and participated in generating actionable recommendations towards recovery and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030.
The health of young people was hit, and the pandemic affected schools. These schools were closed, the education system closed down for a very long time, and as Uganda, we were not used to that. They didn't know how to stay with their children. Some were violated physically, others sexually. Many children were violated, not only girls, but also boys. So we also saw a rise in mental health issues among young people. COVID-19 really had serious effect. If a parent is not working, they will turn their anger on their children. But also the parents we lost. It means we had an increase of orphaned children. I think last year we saw some children hanging themselves just for a set. These effects haven't even ended yet of the pandemic. They are ongoing. So we need to come in, counsel people, speak to people, understand people. There was an increase in child labor and child marriages. So they ended up getting married, being forced into marriage to sustain the families, because families were financially constrained. So some were forced to start working, whether they were forced to become house girls or the boys went into child labor, for whichever, as long as they can bring home something. We faced a lot of maternal deaths of young people because of early pregnancy, and also some of them trying to abort.
My name is Namara. I'm a former District Youth Council Chairman for Kabale, and currently I coordinate Ghana National Students' activities in this region of Kigezi. I happen to have been in active leadership during that period of COVID. So I felt that I needed to share a bit of the experience that was there. At that time, when we had COVID, majority of our youth here, we had advanced them loans, because those were the days when some youth programs were running. Take an example, livelihood. There are also another loan in Centenary. So most of our youth in this region had acquired loans. And you know, much of the loans were into business. Youth were into business. The president looked at the country in his directive, all markets closed. Those who are engaged in trade and small enterprise business, they all collapsed. Now, the biggest challenge then that we got, most of our youth had to run away from this region and had to go to Kampala to seek refuge, because they knew anytime the loans office of Centenary would get you and put you in cells. So just imagine such an experience where most of our youth have been detached and have left their areas, left their families, left their homes, and are now stranded in Kampala trying to survive on a small meal. Now, this is why I'm saying that even if I got the opportunity, I would even tell it to the president that why hasn't the government come in to put in a waiver on all the youth that had acquired loans during that time? Those loans need to have been suspended, because the markets, he's the one who closed the markets. Youth lost money, now they are stranded in Kampala. Still, there is another.
The former chairperson for Kabale District Youth Council proposed that there should be changes in the funding, together with the councillor for Kanungu, for special interest groups. Because basically the special interest groups we have youth, we have women, PWDs, and older persons, in terms of the grant they are getting. This is a policy issue. I am pushing it back to the National Youth Council, which should have that dialogue at the national level to have a policy change or policy shift. But as the dialogue we have here is, we have the input, it should be forwarded to the high authorities in the cabinet for changing of the what? Of the policy. Therefore, we are making proposals of how to improve on our benefit from the programs. When we are talking of girls, the question in my mind is, who implements the girl? Is it the man or the boy? Of course, they are both. So, like the other person who presented, let us always talk about both males and what? And females. But we keep on bending towards the girls as if we are what? They won't cause this problem. Please, in some areas, especially in urban areas, there are some girls who can rape what? They are there. But you know here what? You know the awful environment, and when of course it's done on a male one, the cities, indecent assault. That is what? It is the case. So it means let us be a part and parcel and promote gender what?
My brother talked about young girls using emergency contraceptives as family planning. That is very wrong. We encourage use of emergency contraceptives as emergencies, just as the name is. They must be used when there is an emergency. But if a girl realizes, okay, if they decide they are sexually active, then they must use family plan. Another method, a real method of family planning, which is safe, because these emergency contraceptives have high doses of those hormones, which are not supposed to be used on
grants for youth and not loans. Well, I think even our PAS suggested that I think it is a policy issue. Yeah, most of these government programs for youth that are available are mainly loans, right? The Youth Livelihood Program, now the Parish Development Model, the MIOGA, and so many others. So if we would have to have another program, it would have to have its own, it would be a new program entirely, and the different stakeholders would have to be consulted. So in the first place, the programs that are available for youth, they still consulted youth on what they need, and what they came up with was that was the loan that youth needed, that was interest-free, but also could be returned. Yes, I understand there are some challenges that have happened, and because of the pandemic, most of the youth businesses died or were unable to make profits, and youth failed to pay back the loans. But we've also seen that, yes, you have to pay back the loans, but some people have run away because they had no money to pay for the loans. I want to encourage us as youth leaders that why that money is in place is to help as many people as possible. Even our fellow youth in the villages, we need to encourage them that if you commit to taking the money, please make sure you pay back, because when you pay back, it is that same money that helps another youth group. So the makers of the policy regarding to some of those programs felt that the youth were very energetic, and unlike other special interest groups that like elders and persons with special abilities, they felt like youth were very much more energetic and could work.
In some districts, specifically Kabale, we had to make sure that those coming to benefit from PDM did not default. That is just one thing that I had to first start with, making sure that in some districts, the local government is taking a step to ensure that if you've defaulted, you do not show up again in PDM. Getting straight to my concerns as recommendations for all this that we are talking about, looking at the challenges that came in with COVID-19. Yes, people lost jobs, people dropped out of school, but looking at the challenges that were there even before the pandemic and how they increased, I quickly start with unemployment. People were laid off. People previously were still unemployed. So what next for us? This, I make it as a recommendation to all stakeholders, most especially the representatives from the National Youth Council. Please, I pray that you advocate for employment reforms. And what am I talking about in regards to employment reforms? It is a burden to me when I look at the fact that the retirement age is as high as 60, yet we have many young people. Yet most of the times you will see adverts running, they're asking for a certain age experience, a certain age, yet people have just graduated, they do not have the experience, they are still young, the retirement age is too high. Let us have an education reform so that if it means retiring at 45, I'm using the 45 as an example, so that we have young people getting into such places, getting into these workplaces. We need the young people in the public service, not the old people continuing and continuing. The next thing that I have as a recommendation.
Who had asked about the structures for rape victims that they can use. A rape victim should first of all go to the health facility even before going to police, because there are interventions that are time limited. So if they first go to police, they would miss out on that. They can easily get infections that would be prevented if they first go to the health facility. So it is the health facility, police, CDOs, and then there is a Ministry of Health toll-free helpline. Yeah, it is 0800 100 066.